Here is just a short list of different supplies that we'll be needing to be able to start mixing resin. Over on the left-hand side, you see that we have vinyl gloves. I use these because they are powder-free, they're not latex, so there's very little allergy concerns with those. We also have an optional face mask. Some of these resins, like the Solar Easy especially, gives off a lovely fume. It's very, very potent, so you may want to have a mask to help stave off some of that. We also have our Ultra 4 mold release. If you have a silicone mold and you want to extend its life, you definitely want to make sure you use a mold release spray. Ultra 4 is just one of the ones that I happened to come across that worked really well for me. We also have two different kinds of molds that you can have. There's a plastic mold, which if it's a smooth surface, it'll give you a really nice glossy finish. Or we also have the silicone molds, which are more of my mainstay. They're a lot easier to use. It's just a lot easier to flex the mold to make sure there's no air bubbles, and it just works out a lot better for me. We also have stir sticks. Now, I love these plastic stir sticks that I got from Resin Obsession. I actually ordered these through Amazon, and it was very surprising. I was supposed to get them 5 days later than I actually did. For all you TBEC people, they're actually stationed in Gainesville, so if you order from them, you might actually get it a lot sooner than you expect. If you don't want to spend the money on those little stir sticks, they're about $1.25 a piece if you add it up. You can always go with the popsicle stick option. I don't happen to like this one because the wood, I find, adds air bubbles to the mixture, so I try and stay more towards the plastic stir stick element. Of course, you're going to need some kind of measuring cups. I have these little ones in the center that they measure ounces, drams, and milliliters, I believe. I actually use the dram because it's easier to see. Also importantly, you need something to cover your work surface with, so wax paper is your best friend. If you mix powder pigments into your resin, it's always better to use it on the wax paper surface and then transfer it into the cup instead of just dropping it into the whole cup. You'll come up with a lot smoother mix if you do it on the wax paper first. And then of course you need paper towels. It's always the one thing you forget about. You always need something to clean off your stir stick, clean off your work surface if you happen to get it on you. If your hands are getting super sticky, if it gets anywhere, it's just really easy to clean it up while it's still in liquid form. So paper towels are your best friend. We also have a nice array of different kinds of pigments that you can use. Translucent ones so you can see through them. There's also some opaque colors. Most of those are all cast and craft, but all the way over to the right you see some powder pigments. I got most of these through Amazon. Those things are amazing when they come out. That's just awesome. I've got some UV reactive ones and some glow-in-the-dark ones just to set off my own little heartbeat. Another optional thing that you can have is this big beauty in the front, the lighter. Some people like to use heat to be able to pop the air bubbles in their molds. I haven't personally used this technique, but I have seen it done, and for them it seems to work. We might try it, we might not. I tend to just pull it over to the side and just pop it or drag it out of the resin mold itself. It's just a lot easier for me that way. I don't like to burn the resin. There is a resin spray in the middle. Sometimes if you want a higher glossy finish, instead of mixing a whole other batch of resin, you might just go with the resin spray. It's also a cast and craft, which is the same as the colors. This has worked out really well for me if my mixes have been a little off. I've been able to spray that over the top and it actually saves the piece. So if you're using the older easy cast resin like I did and found out the hard way that if you use old resin it comes out really, really sticky, a little bit of that will save you so much headache. So I definitely recommend getting you some resin spray. These are the three resins that we'll be testing out. Easy Cast. Most people are familiar with this one. You can go to any craft store and find it. When you look up resin online, it's one of the first ones that shows up. The good things about this one is that it's a nice easy 1-to-1 ratio mix. It does dry clear. You can add pigments to it. Kind of the negatives that we have is that it does have a really long cure time, so you have to let that thing set overnight. Otherwise, it might not come out right, or it'll still be sticky. It'll take your fingerprints when you're trying to take it out of the molds. And as you can see right now, the hardener itself is actually really yellow. That happened after about 3 weeks. Normally these things are supposed to last for a 6-month shelf life before they turn that dark. If you use this resin when it's that old, it will cause your pieces not to cure correctly, they'll be really sticky, they'll be really flexible, and it's just not a good thing. But this particular one I've been fighting with because the last 2 sets that I've purchased haven't even lasted 3 months, and it's turned into that. These are actually about 3 months old, so we're going to test it, and I'm going to prove to you how that one is going to behave. In the middle, we have the Smooth On Smooth Cast 326. The pros, it's also a 1-to-1 mix ratio, very much like the Easy Cast. You're also able to add pigments just like the Easy Cast, but this one cures a lot faster. You have several different versions of the Smooth Cast. There's the 325, the 326, and the 327. They're all translucent, so you can add translucent pigments and they'll still come out see-through. You can add opaque pigments and it'll come out nice and solid like you want it to, but it will come out with a yellow tint if you try and just go for a clear look. So it's great if you want to do something quickly. If you want to add colors to it, that's fine. It'll do the job for you just perfectly. The 325 is more accessible. You can find it on a lot more places than just the Smooth On website, but that one only has about a 2-minute work time and about a 10-minute cure time. That's great if you want to do something really fast. I chose the 326 because it gives you a little bit more of a work time. It actually is about 10-minute work time and about an hour to set, and that's more what I was looking for. But if you get the 327, it'll behave a lot more like the Easy Cast, where it takes all day to set. We have the Solar Easy, or Solar Res, however you want to say that one. Pros on this one. The reason I chose Solar Res is because this one is supposed to cure crystal clear. It's supposed to be completely see-through like glass, like water, as long as you use the UV light. It's also going to cure extremely quickly if you use the UV light. You also have the option of using pigments in it as well, but it may change the way that it cures. If you want to use pigments, if you want to use solid elements in your pieces that the light won't pierce through, you'll have to use the peroxide that you see all the way on the right-hand side there. The peroxide is going to act as your catalyst, as your hardener. So you will need that if you intend on coloring your pieces with that particular resin. Also, with that resin, you need to know that it does have a very powerful odor. You may want to get a face mask to use this one.